As of 10 PM GMT my time, we have had a pretty big update regarding DLC clans. On the Bloodlines 2 Discord, the following has been announced. We are listening to your feedback about the La Sombra and Toreador clan access. We're making adjustments ahead of launch to reflect this. Does this mean DLC clans are being scrapped? I believe with the large amount of feedback given from the pre-release gameplays from reviewers and content creators, this could very well mean it is. A lot of discussion has happened around this topic, and we could be receiving news about the La Sombra and the Toreador being freed from DLC hell very soon. But that is yet to be confirmed. Alas, I have a rather large portion of this video that goes over my thoughts on DLC clans. I recorded this over the weekend, and I expect my words to be eaten very soon. I'm keeping it in as I think the points I've covered are fair, but just keep in mind this could all change very soon. Now, onto the video. An Apollo Speaks video being late? I think this is slowly becoming a tradition. Greetings! It's that time of the year. After many delays, we are finally able to draw back the crimson curtain on Bloodlines 2. Gameplay, mechanics, story teasers, we're now able to see much more than we have ever been able to witness. But is this the game we were truly expecting? It has been, to put it lightly, an incredibly turbulent time to be a follower of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. From rumors of its cancellation, to Hardsuit Labs dropping the property, to the Chinese room picking it back up, it is nothing less than a miracle that it is finally coming to fruition. And I have to say, my initial impressions of seeing everything at this moment in time are mostly positive, from a gameplay perspective at least. I think the game does look good, but there are many asterisks against that statement. With DLC clans on launch and various feedback praising the gameplay but denoting a lack of roleplay options does hoist up some concerns. Now, like all of my Bloodlines 2 breakdowns, I want to reiterate the following. Whilst I am seething with jealousy, I have not had my hands on this Bloodlines 2 pre-release preview build, and I am in no way sponsored by World of Darkness. I will say, however, that Bloodlines 2 being a success is what I want. I'm not a doomsayer. If any property deserves a big W, it's the World of Darkness. There is, and has been, a slurry of rage bait content surrounding this property ever since the first couple of reveals. A lot of criticism is valid, but a lot of it is literally just farming hate for the sake of views. I do believe it's in our best interests to be critical about the things we love, but there's also a lot of good I've seen from this game. I will try and be as unbiased as possible through analysing what we have seen from the preview build of the game, but furthermore, I will provide my own positive and critical opinions. But of course, these are my own. All footage within this video will be coming straight from the pre-release footage reviewers and content creators have captured. I will be leaving all links to these videos in the description. I truly recommend checking them out yourselves. As a fan of this franchise for many years now, hopefully my insight will give you guys some food for thought on whether you'll be picking up this game at launch, waiting for a sale, or saying goodbye to it forever. But first, do you like long-form lore content? Do you enjoy a voice that sounds vaguely like Matt Berry if you put two fingers in your ears and screamed? Well, I have news for you. I cover lore from all across the World of Darkness, a goth punk setting where vampires, werewolves, mages and more are rife across a tainted modern Earth. If this intrigues you, give my most recent video a try. And always, giving this video a like, dropping a comment, and subscribing always helps out the channel. But now, we must discuss Bloodlines 2. I think we first have to address the elephant in the room, and it's something we've discussed in prior videos regarding the game, and that is DLC clans. It's been a known fact for old followers of Bloodlines 2's development cycle that there would be 4 clans in the base game, and 2 that can be unlocked as payable DLC. But now, of course, we have the pricing model. Now, to pad this out a little more, it's best to understand that this is most likely a publisher decision, another choice strictly made by the Chinese room developers. This style of DLC is used across Paradox games, and it just so happens to be in this one too. Shocker, I know. It does appear that the delays were in part due to adding these 2 clans, so that's also worthy of thinking about whilst we go through this. So, as a pre-order bonus first of all, you get the Nostalgia Jukebox. Initially, when I was watching these pre-release gameplays, I was over the moon when I heard the classic riffs from Rick Schaefer. specifically Poinsettia, which played after the intro when fire emerges onto the streets of Seattle. As far as I understand, a lot of Rick Schaefer's compositions have still made it through into Bloodlines 2. However, being integrated into Garfinkel and Noon's score. And having this jukebox, which I believe serves as a piece of furniture in your haven, will be a nice thing to revisit some of these prior scores. This leads perfectly to the bonuses that come with these editions. So for the deluxe edition, you get the Santa Monica Memories DLC, which gives you haven decor, or for the uninitiated, furniture for your apartment. This includes the Ankaran sarcophagus, the iconic stop sign, a portrait of the Vorman sisters, and the Clan Neon collection, which I believe is a neon symbol of your clan, of which you gain the whole collection through individual playthroughs. Now, the base game will be $59.99 US. This deluxe edition will be $69.99, and the final premium edition will be $89.99. Which will include the base game and deluxe perks. But what else do you get with this premium edition? Well, this is where we discuss these DLC clans. Essentially, for the ability to play Clan La Sombra or Clan Toreador, this is the edition you will need. There is the option to purchase Shadows and Silk separately for $21.99, but you won't be getting a whopping big Methuselah-crammed sarcophagus in your room. Now, the way the clans are set up in Bloodlines 2, at least from what I've seen, allows for a variety of differences in playstyle, like unlocking new abilities and noting changes through how the city interacts with fire, mainly through clan-specific outfits and additional dialogue options. These clans also have difficulty markers for their mastery, so it appears that clan choice is a very important core aspect. Choosing your clan within any VTM property is perhaps the most interesting and integral part, and whilst there is customization in some form within Bloodlines 2, the clans are what differentiate the character, from how you fight to the decisions you make as a vampire. As they did in Bloodlines 1, the mechanics of how the clans work is the key to replayability, and the fact that two of them are placed behind a fairly hefty paywall isn't the nicest thing to see. That is also to say that these two DLC clans are ones which, at least to my assumptions, don't offer drastically different playstyles, outside of expanded abilities. In Vampire the Masquerade, there are clans of whose existence is so different to the average vampire that their playstyles would equate to a totally unique experience of the game, such as the Nosferatu who break the Masquerade with their very presence, and the Malkavians who are tied to the Madness Network. Albeit, we will see some playable Malkavian inclusion through Fabian, which I'll discuss a little later. The La Sombra and the Toreador are great clans in their own right, but both can fit pretty well into the current framework of the build. The La Sombra might have some interesting gameplay mechanics with Oblivion, and if any technology barriers come up during play, that could also be a cool little challenge, and the Toreador really should have expanded dialogue to befit their various archetypes. But it would have been really nice to have seen a playable Nosferatu or Gangrel to juxtapose the current clans. I've read and watched a lot of takes on this, and it's my main gripe I have with Bloodlines 2 at this time. Many will have issues here and there about certain elements of the game itself, but I think above all, the one thing that will impede this game's perception is that Day 1 DLC. It's already dredged up a lot of discussion around the gaming space. Now, whether Paradox will budge on it, I have no idea. That remains to be seen. Seeing as we're very close to release, I personally can't see any changes to forecast, but I stand to be corrected. Right, finances out of the way, how does the game look? Back when we were exploring the reveal trailers, there were many concerns that parts of this game felt and looked unfinished. And honestly, that's probably because they were. Bloodlines 2 is no stranger to a delay, and the fact that the Chinese room have taken the time to go back and refine parts of this game that stood out within these trailers has, in my eyes, paid off. When watching through the gameplay, the tone and ambience is very strong, and feels well crafted. If it's neo-noir TCR are going for, they've done an amazing job. All of the environments look beautifully stylized, with the lighting, decoration and tonal shifts from decrepit industrial lots to dazzling neon streets to opulent interiors. There has been a lot of care taken. It does feel like a lot of time has gone into making this an intensely atmospheric experience. with each bite, punch or discipline used carrying its own devastating effects, which the animations often emphasize. One of the main complaints that I've seen, and in some part echoed in my previous videos, was the inclusion of the voice in your head trope that we've seen most recently in Cyberpunk 2077. When I found out that Fabian would be offering internal narration alongside Fire's voiced dialogue, I can't lie, I was pretty skeptical. Cyberpunk had Keanu Reeves to hold up their gimmick, so I wasn't truly convinced that Bloodlines 2 would be able to pull off something similar. However, it seems TCR has followed through with the general atmosphere, making Fabian a 20s style detective, within a narrative that is perfect for such a character to play an interjectory role. Fabian in this gameplay I've seen is a nice tie-in to this neo-noir world. With him being a character inspired by classic hard-boiled noir detective films, his inclusion within the plot does intrigue me. I was worried for a long time that with the clans showcased, we wouldn't get much of an insight into the more left-field side of the World of Darkness. But from the trailer and gameplay, there appears to be a lot of fun to be had with his inclusion. It's a more nuanced take on a Malkavian, which I genuinely appreciate, and the interactions you can have through his playable side, through his memories, seem pretty cool, and a refreshing interlude to Fire's storyline. His inclusion also provides a nice narrative function that describes certain elements of Seattle's lore alongside key aspects of Vampire the Masquerade, and I feel that's pretty important considering there are various elements of the current build which appear to want to reach out to a new base of players. I will touch on this a little bit later in the video. Now, this is to say I'm still not entirely convinced with the dialogue system in Bloodlines 2. Whilst I generally think the performance given by the voices of Fire are sound, a lot of reviews are coming out having noted certain issues with choice. Most of the playable character dialogue I've seen thus far is limited to 3 or 4 or so options, and whilst other mechanics such as your clan, outfits or abilities may alter interactions, I did see some clan-specific dialogue options from the gameplay featured, I get the impression that the people currently playing the game have noted certain linear elements when it comes to the role-playing side of things. This isn't to say it's entirely uninteresting. The performances delivered by the variety of characters you do meet, even in this pre-release build of the game, still offer a good level of satisfaction through the quality of their character performance. The facial animations and presentation of dialogue cutscenes are also fluid and expressive, and something I'd really expect from a Bloodlines experience. I've also heard from articles that there is a diverse range of interactions you can have, even in this early build of the game. So it may be that this element is expanded upon much further as the game releases. There is a certain cinematic quality to many of the interactions you do have. Sometimes this can be perceived as being a bit railroady, but I feel TCR's streamlined approach to the delivery of story beats fits this style. To cut back to presentation of interactions, through Fabian's memories, the act of being a detective and having to interact with people really highlighted these performances. But there are many standouts from Fire's early interactions. It feels like a lot of time and effort went into making the external ambience really shine, even if your own choices may slightly be limited as a consequence. This is, perhaps, one of the largest deviations from the original Bloodlines, where dialogue was extensive. Of course, much of the dialogue didn't lead towards any particular outcome, but it did enhance the roleplay aspect of the game. I don't mind trimmed down dialogue systems. Cyberpunk had a pretty solid one, but that is to say, it does feel like certain styles of play, such as immersing yourself in roleplay style dialogue, are slightly limited. Now, whilst dialogue was perhaps the strongest part of the original Bloodlines, it faltered when it came to combat. Now, there's been some articles, especially the IGN one, which commented on the combat having a few issues with enemy locking. But from what I can see, the combat, whilst being mostly hand-to-hand melee, it does look very fun. There's a lot of weight put into these animations, and each connection looks devastating. The amount of abilities Fire has at base is also pretty interesting. From the off, you get the impression that you're very strong, which makes sense being an Elder K-Knight. But I do think there's a fair few things added into the game which were intentionally included to expand its wider appeal, as a sort of quality of life addition. You start what seems to be auto Auspex, with heightened senses being activated as a base skill. There's also telekinesis for picking up weapons such as guns and knives, and the ability to leap from buildings without accruing any damage, by what looks like flying or maybe gliding. These were abilities that were fairly surprising, and as a long-time fan of VTM, the additional abilities seem to draw more from what was planned from the Thin Blood disciplines in the Hardsuit Labs build of the game, rather than drawing from the TTRPG. Are they appropriate for the VTM aesthetic? Personally, I think it's a bit much, but as a general rule of cool addition, I think it works nicely. Now, whilst we don't have access to weapons, these features do offer a cool twist, and will hopefully enhance the overall feel of combat. Albeit, it would have been nice to have some items that we could have picked up throughout the gameplay. It has been good to finally see the vision of Bloodlines 2 finally come to fruition, and it does seem like TCR has spent a good amount of time polishing these systems. But a lot of feedback I'm hearing right now is that the game feels like it's leaning towards the action side of action RPG. Now, there's a lot of discussion within the VTM Bloodlines fanbase whether Bloodlines 2 as it currently stands should even be called Bloodlines. There are various systems that I would have really expected in a Bloodlines game which are absent from this pre-release footage. Stuff like character sheets, stat checks for dialogue, stat checks for interacting with the world, and various other systems like humanity or frenzy mechanics seem to not be here. A lot of this can be explained by TCR's direction of the game. It's an Elder-centric plot, and there seems to be a push to streamline various parts. We can see this through the use of skill trees, or in this case ability trees, to map out your discipline progression. Whilst there are many loud voices talking about the lack of character customization for appearances, I feel this is really not an important aspect when it comes to a Bloodlines game. What I feel does count is the elements which align with the tabletop. Introducing progression through a character sheet system allows for newer players to get immersed with the property. It would have been nice to have seen a slimmed down character sheet of sorts. I would have thought that there would have been at least some push to implement some uniquely V5 systems, but it appears to me that Bloodlines 2 is less about tying the experience to the TTRPG and more about the tone and vibe of Vampire the Masquerade and the World of Darkness. I think it's worthy of note that Bloodlines 2, as it stands right now, is the single biggest advertisement for the World of Darkness in the mainstream. For Bloodlines fans, I don't think we're necessarily the main target audience. But that isn't to say we're completely left out of the equation. The World of Darkness needs new fans. That's genuinely how it will survive. So I think when you perceive the changes and cuts made through this lens, it does make a bit more sense. That isn't to say that we as Bloodlines or Vampire the Masquerade fans can't enjoy this. That's just a bit silly. But solely banking on nostalgia isn't the course I believe TCR are running. It feels to me that this is a unique avenue the developers wanted to explore, and whether or not people deem it to be a worthy successor to Bloodlines, I feel as a long-time fan I do want to see their vision fully. Personally, I do feel like there's a whole lot more to see from the game. There are parts of Bloodlines 2's design which I feel meshes well with the Bloodlines core aesthetic. It's a dense map with hopefully lots of places to explore within this small area. I'm hoping that the NPC character work which is present in the story persists towards the street level and beyond. Do I think it's fair to call this game Bloodlines? For me, I say why not? If the game lives up to what's being shown right now and is a solid experience which appeals to a wider audience, Bloodlines 2 could be the game we need right now as World of Darkness fans. This universe is vibrant, unique, and deserves some recognition. Despite the fact that I do feel like this game deviates and strays from what we saw in Bloodlines 1, I think this experience will generally appeal to a lot of people. Are old Bloodlines fans being betrayed by the decisions being made? Now, I can't speak for everyone. Some people will be upset by how the game doesn't emulate the first. Others will be simply happy that we're getting Bloodlines 2 at all. I personally feel, compared to the early builds we saw from Hardsuit Labs, we are getting a more realised game than what we were expecting many years ago. I feel there is a strong vision being put forwards, and whilst I'm 50-50 on some aspects, I'm at least optimistic it will be fun to play. I'm not 100% content on the systems that are absent, but I don't think they will break the game. As it stands, I feel Bloodlines 2 will deliver a good experience within the World of Darkness setting. It might not be the Bloodlines 2 we wanted, but I reckon it'll be fun. And at the end of the day, that's the most important aspect I'm looking for. To answer the clickbaity title of the video, is this the game we were all expecting? For those that wanted the vision from Hardsuit Labs, it feels like this is a pretty different experience. Whilst following the TCR development cycle, I have come to expect more of what has been expanded upon, and it's nice to see how they finally approached the title. Now, I do hope that Paradox relent on this Day 1 DLC, and let the game shine to its fullest, but that is yet to be seen. I'm personally keeping an open mind, but I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. Until then, stay safe and do not wander naively into the night.